Wedding bells are ringing in Emmerdale next week, but whether Dawn and Joe actually make it down the aisle is another question. Graham discovers Dawn is planning to jilt Joe and run away with Billy, while Jimmy learns the devastating truth about Ruby and Caleb's betrayal. And by the end of the week, a tragic incident leaves the entire village in shock. So here are all 8 Emmerdale spoilers you need to know for next week. In spoiler number 1, Dawn fears her escape plan is under threat. Joe can't wait to make Dawn his wife as their wedding day finally arrives. Graham assures him that nothing will go wrong, but he clearly has his doubts. He knows Dawn is planning something and is determined to find out what. Meanwhile, Dawn starts to fear there might be no way out of the wedding now that Kim is back in the village. In spoiler number 2, Billy is struggling with his guilt. Dawn worries about their escape plan, but Billy reassures her that everything is still on track and they'll be leaving that day. However, Billy is wrestling with his conscience. Dawn thanks him for being so trustworthy, unaware that Billy now knows it was actually Kev who attacked him. So will Billy finally admit the truth and tell Dawn that Joe wasn't responsible? Or will he let her carry on believing the lie? In spoiler number 3, Graham discovers the truth. Dawn's guilt gets even worse when Kim showers her with kindness ahead of the wedding. Desperate to get Kim out of the way, Dawn uses the memory of her late dad Will to distract her, but elsewhere, Graham is getting dangerously close to the truth. His careful questioning causes Lucas to accidentally reveal that Dawn and Billy are planning to leave the village, and with no time to lose, Graham races to Home Farm. In spoiler number 4, Graham catches Dawn in the act. He arrives at the stables to find Dawn loading suitcases into her car while making an incriminating phone call to Billy. Dawn has been caught red-handed, and Graham is horrified that she's planning to humiliate Joe by abandoning him on their wedding day. In spoiler number 5, Dawn takes drastic action against Graham. Dawn explains that she's leaving Joe because she believes he tried to kill Billy. But Graham immediately spots a problem with her story. If Billy was attacked from behind, how could he possibly know that Joe was responsible? As Dawn starts to question what she's been told, Graham grabs her car keys to stop her from leaving. A tussle breaks out and Dawn grabs a nearby shovel. She hits Graham with it, knocking him unconscious. And when Graham finally comes round, he discovers Dawn has tied him up. In spoiler number 6, Caleb drops a huge bombshell on Joe. Caleb is delighted that Joe's life is about to fall apart and even hands Billy a wad of cash, but tensions soon erupt in the wool pack. Joe becomes so fed up with Caleb's attitude that he uninvites him from the wedding, and Caleb decides to get his revenge. He tells Joe that he's finally evened the score between them, before revealing that Dawn has run away with Billy. Even worse, he tells Joe he'll never see his unborn child. But has Caleb revealed everything too soon? In spoiler number 7, Jimmy discovers Ruby and Caleb's betrayal. Jimmy is devastated when he learns that the pair conned him out of his haulage business. Caleb offers Jimmy some money in exchange for his silence, while Ruby remains completely cold-hearted about what they've done. Later, Bob can see that Jimmy has the weight of the world on his shoulders. But is Jimmy simply grieving the loss of his business? Or is he hiding something much bigger? And finally, in spoiler number 8, tragedy strikes the village. The residents of Emmerdale are left in shock when news spreads of a tragic incident. Ramsden keeps a suspicious eye on the crime scene, and nearby, a guilt-ridden Gabby watches on from a distance. Whatever has happened, life in the Dales may never be the same again. And that's everything you need to know about Emmerdale next week. Sarah's prison nightmare is about to take an even darker turn on Coronation Street next week, as Kacey makes a terrifying threat involving her son Harry. Elsewhere, Richie and Lucy appear to be hiding a sinister secret, while a lie from Jake could land Ollie in serious trouble. So here are all 9 Coronation Street spoilers you need to know for next week. In spoiler number 1, Lucy is spiralling. Sally and Tim hear screams coming from the garden and rush outside to find an agitated Lucy accusing Jodie of spying on her. Later, Lucy asks if she can visit her mum at the undertaker's, but when the time comes, she finds herself unable to go inside. Tim then opens up about the guilt he feels over the death of Lucy's mum. In spoiler number 2, Richie tells Lucy to stick to their story. Concerned about Lucy's well-being, Sally books her in for a counselling session. Lucy reluctantly agrees, but uses the session to vent her hatred for Sally and Tim. Back at home, things get even worse when Lucy throws a bowl of popcorn over Joni and brands everyone a liar. Then Lucy secretly takes a call from Richie. He tells her that she needs to stick to their story. So what exactly are the father and daughter hiding? In spoiler number 3, Bernie discovers the truth about Celeste. Todd is stunned to learn that Celeste is actually Bernie's estranged aunt and the twin sister of Bernie's mum. But when Todd tells Bernie that her aunt is dying, she wants nothing to do with her. Todd takes pity on Celeste and invites her to Pride, which she accepts. Later, Bernie opens up to Dev about the bitter family feud between Celeste and her mum. But can the family make peace before it's too late? In spoiler number 4, Bethany makes a shocking discovery about Kit. Bethany takes a call from Sarah and reassures her that Harry is doing fine without her. But Kacey overhears Sarah crying and asks whether she's upset about Harry. Sarah is horrified to realise her prison nemesis knows her son's name. Meanwhile, Bethany gets a shock of her own. She discovers blood on one of Kit's t-shirts. So what exactly has Kit been up to? In spoiler number 5, Kacey makes her most terrifying threat yet. Kacey reveals that she's had pictures taken of Harry, leaving Sarah fearing for her son's safety. Sarah immediately calls Adam, who confirms that Harry is at Lottie's house. Adam races over and demands to know whether Lottie is somehow working with Kacey. But back in prison, Sarah decides she needs to take matters into her own hands. She steals some pool balls and stuffs them into her pocket, planning to use them as a weapon against Kacey. In spoiler number 6, Sarah prepares to strike. Kit decides that the only way to make Kacey back down is to frighten her son, Brandon. When he spots Brandon in the precinct, Kit gives chase. But Bernie intervenes and warns Brandon that he needs to look out for himself. Meanwhile, Sarah makes her way towards Kacey's cell, and she has her makeshift weapon in her hand. So is Sarah really about to attack her tormentor? In spoiler number 7, Ollie steps in to defend Christina. Christina fears she's ruined things with George and drowns her sorrows in the Rovers. Later, Jake spots her drunkenly stumbling in the ginnel and starts filming her. He then pours water over Christina. Ollie sees what's happening, gives chase and pins Jake to the ground. But when Christina reveals it was only water, Ollie immediately lets him go. Unfortunately, Jake isn't prepared to leave things there. In spoiler number 8, Jake lies to the police. Jake returns home and tells Gary and Maria a very different version of what happened. He then makes a false statement to the police, claiming Ollie attacked him completely unprovoked. Later, PC Jess Haywood arrives at the pub and arrests Ollie on suspicion of assault. She warns him that if he's found guilty, he could end up in prison. So, will Jake finally tell the truth? And finally, in spoiler number 9, George has a big decision to make about Christina. George returns to Weatherfield, and Todd wastes no time telling him about Christina's drunken behaviour in the ginnel. It leaves George questioning the future of their relationship. Later, he goes to speak to Christina, but is George about to give her another chance or break her heart? And that's everything you need to know about Coronation Street next week. Time is running out for Denise in EastEnders next week as her family desperately search for the stem cell donor who could save her life. But a surprise discovery reveals she has a secret half-brother called Darnell who could be her last hope. Elsewhere, Priya launches a secret mission to discover whether Ravi or Max is the father of her baby, while Amy finds herself growing even closer to Craig. So here are all 9 EastEnders spoilers you need to know for next week. In spoiler number 1, time is running out for Denise. The search is on to find a suitable stem cell donor, and the Fox Trumans double their efforts ahead of a donor drive at Walford Community Centre. But Denise's health continues to deteriorate. Doctors are eventually forced to place her into a medically induced coma. Then, just when things are looking increasingly bleak, Kim makes a potentially life-saving discovery. Denise has a half-brother called Darnell. In spoiler number 2, Jack risks everything to save Denise. With time running out to find Darnell, Jack decides he needs to take drastic action. But unbeknownst to him, Kim has already managed to make contact. Darnell is horrified when he discovers the real reason his family have tracked him down. Despite his shock, he agrees to visit Denise, but seeing the reality of her condition proves too much for him, and Darnell quickly leaves. In spoiler number 3, there's more heartbreaking news for Denise. Denise is finally brought out of her coma, but the doctors don't have good news. Her cancer treatment isn't working. That means finding a stem cell donor is now more important than ever. Denise is given some hope when she learns that she has a half-brother. But when Jack later meets Darnell and his daughter Grace, things don't go according to plan. Jack returns to the hospital with devastating news. So has Denise's fate been sealed? In spoiler number 4, Penny finally accepts some help. After her frightening fall, Penny realises she can't handle everything by herself. She reluctantly agrees to accept some support as she and Vinny prepare for the arrival of the baby. But Penny is still hiding the truth about the baby's father, and her guilty conscience starts to get the better of her when Vinny asks Harry to help them. In spoiler number 5, Priya plots a secret DNA test. Unlike Penny, Priya genuinely doesn't know who the father of her baby is. It could be Ravi, or it could be Max. So Priya decides it's time to find out. She uses the donor drive as an opportunity to secretly obtain DNA samples from both men, with a little help from Jean. Priya plans to use them for a secret paternity test, but can she pull it off without Ravi or Max discovering what she's doing? In spoiler number 6, Amy grows even closer to Craig. Denzel decides he wants to ask Amy out, but changes his mind after receiving a warning from Howie. Later, Amy makes the first move herself, but she's left heartbroken and humiliated when Denzel rejects her. Amy then encounters Craig in the park, and he's more than willing to offer her a shoulder to cry on. Flattered by his attention, Amy agrees to Craig's suggestion that they should start meeting up more often. In spoiler number 7, Suki and Eve fear they could lose Rhea. The couple receive some devastating news when they learn that Rhea's mother may seek custody of her. Naturally, Suki and Eve are heartbroken at the thought of losing their foster daughter. And the stress soon starts affecting the rest of the family. Suki takes her frustrations out on Vinny as they argue over Penny and the baby. So could another family rift be on the way? In spoiler number 8, Suki threatens Kat with legal action. Alfie decides to cheer Kat up by throwing her a surprise Benidorm-themed party. Kat is genuinely touched by the gesture, but the celebrations soon get out of hand, and a community officer threatens the Moons with a fine. Then things get even worse when Rhea ends up injured. Terrified that the incident could damage her and Eve's chances of keeping Rhea, Suki turns on Kat, and she threatens her with legal action. And finally, in spoiler number 9, Priya commits to Ravi. Priya is determined to put her affair with Max behind her once and for all. By the end of the week, she and Ravi reaffirm their love for one another and start making plans for their future together. But there's still one huge question hanging over them. Will Priya get a happy ending with Ravi? Or will that secret DNA test reveal that Max is actually the father of her baby? And that's everything you need to know about EastEnders next week.